Hi class. In this video we're going to look at a problem that's very similar to P7-23 in your homework. So this has to do with Sylvan Industries. They manufacture lotions and insect repellents. And it looks like they are trying to decide whether to sell a new product called Chap Off, which is a lip balm. Says the product will be sold to wholesalers in boxes of 16 tubes for $6.90 per box. Because of excess capacity, no additional fixed manufacturing overhead costs will be incurred to produce the product. So if they just choose to do this product or not, fixed costs are not affected. But then it says a $100,000 charge for fixed manufacturing overhead will be absorbed by the product under the company's absorption costing system. So in other words, they're not going to have any additional fixed costs associated with the Chap Off, but they're going to spread the fixed costs that they currently have over one more product. So that means that under absorption costing, all of the other products, the actual fixed cost that will be allocated to each of those products will be less, because some of that's going to be picked up by Chap Off. And then it says, using the estimated sales and production of 100,000 boxes of Chap Off, we have some cost per box given in this chart here. And then it says, as an alternative to making the tubes for the chapstick, they have approached a supplier to discuss the possibility of purchasing the tubes. So then they would just fill the tubes. The purchase price of the empty tubes comes from the supplier would be 80 cents per box for 16 tubes. And if they decided to accept that purchase proposal, then they would have direct labor and variable manufacturing overhead costs that would be reduced, because they wouldn't have to be doing the work to create those tubes. So 10% reduction of direct material, direct labor and manufacturing overhead would be reduced by 10%, and direct material costs would be reduced by 20%. So that's our given information. The first thing it says to do is calculate the total variable cost of producing one box of Chap Off. Alright, so I've kind of made some sort of a template on how to calculate these things. So the first thing we need to think about is, well, what would those costs include for manufacturing a box of Chap Off or any of the other things? So they're going to have direct material, direct labor, and variable manufacturing overhead, and those three categories of things will make up the total variable cost of a box of Chap Off. So it says up here that our direct material, our direct labor was given. We have a variable manufacturing overhead cost that's also given. Oops, I'm sorry, just manufacturing overhead. So that is variable and fixed. So this is our total cost if we're going to make the Chap Off product. So down here in my chart, some of this is given. So $2.60 was actually given for direct materials, and it was $1 for direct labor. And this is going to bug me because I don't have currency formatting, so let me fix that. Alright, so $2.60 direct material, $1 direct labor, and then we need our variable manufacturing overhead, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because up here it says we have $1.80, but that's for overhead in general. So that would be fixed and variable costs. So our total manufacturing overhead cost for a box of Chap Off is $1.80. But we need to back out the fixed portion of that. And somewhere up here, let's see what it said. So there's a $100,000 charge for fixed manufacturing overhead will be absorbed by the product. So we're going to have $100,000 of fixed overhead that will be associated with that product, and we can figure out how much that is per box by taking the $100,000 fixed overhead divided by 100,000 boxes is $1 per box in fixed overhead. So I put that down here. So here's my total manufacturing cost of $1.80. going to take away the fixed part of that, which is $1, which gives me 80 cents of variable overhead cost per box, I'm sorry. So that amount I can just go down there. Let's see, my little pen out. All right, so our total variable cost per box is just the total of those three categories of cost: our direct materials, our direct labor, and our variable manufacturing overhead. So that's the total variable cost of producing one box of chap-off. So it costs us $4.40 to do that. So that's kind of an important number there. I'm going to mark it so I can find it later, and we'll move on to the next thing. It says, assume that the tubes for the chap-off are purchased from an outside supplier. Calculate the total variable cost of producing one box of chap-off. Okay, so we need, again, to calculate our direct materials, our direct labor, our variable manufacturing overhead, and then in this case, we're going to have that cost of purchasing that tube. So I'm going to put that in just because that's probably the easiest part of this. It said up here in the instructions, the purchase price of the empty tube is 80 cents per box of 16 tubes. So cost of purchasing the tube, 80 cents. And let me fix that so I've got some correct formatting here. All right, so direct material, direct labor, and variable manufacturing overhead. You have to be careful with these because we calculated those costs up here, but remember in the instructions it said if we purchase those tubes, it's going to decrease the cost of our direct materials, direct labor, and variable manufacturing overhead because we're not going to have to worry about making those tubes. So we need to calculate what the direct materials would be without the cost of the material of the tubes. So our direct material cost is normally $2.60. If we come back up here, it says direct material costs would be reduced by 20%. So I'm just going to write this calculation out here so that you can see it. So the cost of our direct materials normally is the $2.60, but we're only going to have to pay 80% of that. Whoops, I'm mixing my formulas here. We're only going to have to pay 80% of the cost of direct materials because 20% of that goes to the tube, and we're going to buy the tube, so we won't have to have that cost. So if we take $2.60 times 80% is $2.08 in direct materials. Direct labor was $1, but there's a reduction. Let's see. It says direct labor and variable manufacturing overhead cost would be reduced by 10%. So 10% reduction for each of those if we purchase. So we can do the direct labor of $1 times 90% would be 90 cents. And our variable manufacturing overhead was 80 cents. And that one we can multiply by 90% as well because there's a 10% reduction on that. So 80 cents times 90% is 72 cents. I'm going to add all those together. So our total variable cost per box in this case would be $4.50. So if we make everything, the tubes and all the chapstick stuff, if we make it all ourselves, it's going to cost us $4.40 a box. If we make the actual chap off but purchase the tube to put it in, it's going to cost us $4.50 a box. So the question says, should Sylvan Industries make or buy the tubes? Well, since it's going to cost them less to make the tubes, they should make the tubes. So that's my answer to that one. And then let's see, requirement 2. What would be the maximum purchase price acceptable to Sylvan Industries? Okay, so I kind of came up again with another little template down here to calculate our costs. So we can kind of think about this as if we were to purchase the tubes from somebody else, what cost are we saving? So we need to answer that question first. So when we think about the cost we're saving, we read up in the instructions that we had a savings on direct materials, we had a savings on direct labor, and we had a savings on manufacturing overhead. So if we add all those savings together, we can actually figure out a total amount of cost that we won't have if we buy those tubes. So our direct materials, our savings was $2.60 times 20%, which is 52 cents. Our direct labor was, and I'm getting these from up here, so our direct labor was $1, and we had a 10% savings, so that is $1 times 10% is 10 cents that we saved, that we would save by purchasing. Let me fix my formatting. And our variable manufacturing overhead, again, I got that from up here, cost us 80 cents normally. But if we buy those tubes, we save 10% of that, so that's 8 cents that we would actually save. So we add all those together. If we purchase the tubes, we can avoid cost ourselves of 70 cents, and that 70 cents comes some from the direct materials we wouldn't have to purchase, the labor that we wouldn't use to manufacture those tubes, and then the variable manufacturing overhead that would be associated from that. So if we're going to avoid cost of 70 cents a tube, then the maximum purchase price that would be acceptable to us would be 70 cents a tube. Because anything that costs us more than 70 cents, it's actually going to be cheaper for us to make those things ourselves. So we would avoid cost of 70 cents a tube if we purchased tubes for whatever cost. But if we could avoid 70 cents a tube and we're going to purchase them for 80 cents, well, that doesn't make sense. We're going to purchase them, if we could avoid cost of 70 cents a tube and we're going to purchase them for 60 cents a tube, that's a 10 cent savings per tube. So the maximum price acceptable would be 70 cents per tube. Well, actually, I think that's, maybe it's per box. Yeah, per box. Fix that. Okay. So, I mean, and really, you probably wouldn't purchase them for 70 cents a box. If you could save 70 cents a box, that would be kind of a wash. So, but anything less than that, 69 cents, 68 cents, anything down from there, you'd be better off to actually purchase those. All right, so requirement 3 says instead of sales of 100,000 boxes, revised estimates show a sales volume of 115,000 boxes. At this new volume, additional equipment must be acquired to manufacture the tubes at an annual rental of $22,000. Assume the outside supplier will not accept an order for less than 115,000 boxes. So it's either we buy the 115,000 boxes or we make the 115,000 boxes. And if we're going to make the 115,000 boxes, we have that additional cost. So we're going to compare the two costs of doing those things. All right, so to make 115,000 boxes, we had, let's see, our cost which would be 115,000 boxes, whoops, too many zeros, times the cost for each of those boxes. And that cost was $4.40. And let me come up here and show you where that came from. So all the way up here in requirement 1, our total variable cost per box was $4.40, and that's if we're making everything. So I took that $4.40 and multiplied it by 115,000 boxes, and that tells me that it's going to cost us $506,000 to make 115,000 boxes of chap-off. In addition to that, we have that $22,000 additional cost because we don't have the capacity to do 115,000 boxes, so we've got that additional rental cost. So our total cost would be the cost of both of those things. Our cost of making the chap-off plus the rental cost that we've had to add because of the extra equipment. So our total cost is $528,000 for making all 115,000 of those boxes. The alternative is we could buy 115,000 boxes, and we already calculated the cost of that up here. So here would be the cost of the chap-off if we manufacture the chap-off, but we buy all 115,000 of the tubes. So those are $4.50. So our cost of buying the 115,000 boxes with the chap-off would be 115,000 times $4.50 a box. Should be $517,500. All right, so these are the two amounts we're going to compare. So we've got $528,000 to buy that extra, or to rent that other equipment, and to make all of the 115,000 boxes of chap-off, or we can spend $517,500 and pay somebody else to manufacture the tubes, and we can just fill the tubes. So of those two options, it says, based on the above calculation, should we make or buy the boxes? Well, it's going to cost us less to buy the boxes, so we want to buy them. Buy the boxes of the tubes, I guess, just to kind of clarify that. So that's what you would compare. And let's see, requirement 4, which is the last one of this kind of long problem. It says, refer to the data in 3 above. Assume the outside supplier will accept an order of any size for the tubes at 80 cents a box, which is the best alternative. All right, so let me make sure I've got my bearings here. So we have 4 options. Make all 115,000 boxes, buy all 115,000 boxes, make 100,000 boxes and buy 15,000, or make 22,000 boxes and buy 22,000 boxes. And of course, on your problem, it's probably going to have some different alternatives. So you'll have to do it a little bit different. But for mine, I would first of all say D doesn't even make any sense, because if you make 22,000 boxes and buy 22,000 boxes, you're not going to have enough if you need 115,000 boxes. So I think we can just agree that D is not the answer. So then we've got making 115,000 boxes. And we already actually calculated that. So we've got making 115,000 boxes would be the $528,000 dollars, or we can buy the 115,000 boxes, and it says 80 cents a box, and I can't remember. Yes, I can remember if they had changed that cost or not. So that is actually the cost that we calculated when we calculated up here. So to make the 115,000 boxes will be $4.40 each. To buy them, and we did use the 80 cents a box, so that's $4.50 a piece. And of course, those are the amounts we used to calculate here. So this one, would be $528,000. And this one's $517,500. And this one, I don't know what it is, but it's nonsense. Won't work, so we'll just put a note there. So the only one we don't know about is the make 100,000 boxes and buy 15,000 boxes. So we're actually going to have to calculate that. So I'm just going to come over here somewhere. If we're making 100,000 boxes, and we're buying 15,000, we're going to do these calculations. So the calculation for the made ones were the 100,000 boxes times $4.40 a box. And that number should be familiar to you because that's the number we used up here when we calculated the cost of making all of them. It's also the number that we used up here when we calculated the cost of individual cost of producing a box. So that's where that $4.40 comes from. That's the formula. So 100,000 times $4.40 is $440,000. Move that a little bit so it's not so jammed up together. And we have also, so that's what it will cost us to make the 100,000. The buying the 15,000 would be 15,000 times $4.50 a box. And again, that number should be familiar. That's actually the number we used here. And that number came all the way from up here when we calculated how much it would be if we purchased those tubes. So 15,000 times $4.50 a box is $67,500. Let me fix my formatting again. So the total would be, the total of those two amounts would be $507,500. So to make them all, we'd have $528,000. Whoa, I got way too many zeros on that one. To buy them would be $517,500. And to make some, buy some in these specific quantities would be $507,500. And then D, just crazy, doesn't make any sense. So we're going to skip that one. So the one that's going to actually cost us the least is this one, the $507,500. So for us to actually choose to make the 100,000, which is the amount that we can make without hitting that threshold level where we have to have that extra rent, which should make logical sense to you. So we can actually make the $100,000 without having that extra cost, and then paying somebody else to make the other 15,000 boxes is actually going to come out the cheapest for us. So of these three, I would choose C. That would be the best alternative. And I think that's the end of that one. So it's kind of long, but the calculations aren't too complex. So I hope this helps. If you have questions, always feel free to contact me.